Welcome back to the podcast. We're past Thanksgiving, on our way to Christmas. How was your Thanksgiving, Johnny?
Good.
Okay, so let's talk about movies. Let's talk about cinema. Let's talk about the cinema.
Sure.
Okay. So I just saw Anora last night.
Star Wars.
I just saw. Let's just make this a podcast about Star Wars.
Okay.
and talk about the latest Star Wars shows on Disney Plus, like the upcoming Skeleton Crew, which I'm very, very excited about. I'm sure it's going to be a lot better than the other ones that have come out recently.
This one has promise.
Yeah.
I'm sure this 500th new Star Wars that comes, this one's going to be the one.
Yeah. I really am nervous about the future of Hollywood, because everyone's just signing up. Like you got your boy Robert Pattinson, you got Mia Goth, you got all these like sort of actors that you sort of assumed to have like some integrity, and they're all just signing up for like Marvel Disney stuff. And it's
sure.
like Robert Pattinson's going to be Particle Man or whatever. And I guess, you can still make that stuff.
Well, I mean, it's like when that's all that people are making, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I don't know. I would think that like there's other stuff that people are making, but I mean, no one's really spending like hundreds of millions of dollars on anything anymore, except for like, Disney, and I guess maybe Apple has the most money of everybody, as far as I know, as far as the pie charts that I've consulted.
What's the biggest Apple-made movie?
Movie? They're more into doing shows. Like they're more like, they're not really interested in the theater system. I think they've pretty much abandoned that. So they're doing everything within the platform that they've created.
Right.
I don't
think I've ever seen an Apple television show.
I think that the latest, I could be wrong, but I think that the latest Macbeth, the Coen brothers Macbeth, was an Apple production, an Apple Finance production. But again, that was not in theaters, or if it was in theaters, it was like in 3 theaters, for a week, just so that they could qualify for awards and stuff. It sucks that the theater ecosystem is just in the toilet and nobody wants to do it anymore. Not that I love the experience of going to a theater, but it definitely just changes like how much value a film has, and like how much a film matters, like culturally, etc. Now it's just, as kind of we were talking last time, the difference between like, you kind of went on a long, like probably 20-minute speech about how things need to be. You did review the episode. It's pretty impressive. But you're talking just about like integrity of cinema as it relates to art, and the stuff that's being made today is not necessarily designed to challenge anyone, or make them feel something, or make them kind of contemplate an emotion and then maybe discover something about themselves, or maybe just life in general, or whatever.
Sure.
It's mostly just something to just watch and be kind of like, oh, that was cool, and then just go to sleep and wake up and go bleary-eyed to your shitty job that doesn't pay you enough money and that you hate.
Right.
But that just seems the way everything's going. But there still is good stuff being made, and this brings me roundabout full circle to Anora by Sean Baker.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you think about it.
I was like completely in love with this movie during the whole, like, it felt like maybe the first like 45 to 50 minutes where they're like falling in love, and they go to Vegas, and it's genuinely romantic, and it's exciting, and it almost has this the best way I can the best comparison I can make is like Larry Clark, sort of fetishization of youth, where it's like, just to be young is to be, in Congress with the divine, basically, and having sex like as a young person is basically the best time that anyone's ever going to have in their life,
Sure.
Just like, having sex and like, as a guy and like coming 3 times and just being like, just so fucking full of jizz that you don't even know what to do with yourself, that kind of experience. Totally, that all comes off like so clearly and so like, it's that kind of good nostalgia, not the kind of nostalgia that you get when you watch a movie, like an old movie, or watch a movie that reminds you of an older movie, but rather a movie that reminds you of a time, like reminds you very precisely of a time in your life, and you're kind of like, and you feel nostalgic for the past, for your youth, and you're like, fuck yeah, and then you add this
or the youth
element.
That you wish you had.
Well, I'd say that I fucked a lot when I was a kid, like when I was like in my 20s. Like I was able to pull tail, as they say.
Okay.
I don't really recall how I did it, Like I try to sort of think like how I would apply those kinds of things today. And I mean, I'm an old man now. Yeah, I don't know that I can, I mean, I guess I'd have to go after like single moms and like divorcees and stuff.
You, as a director, you'd be surprised what you could get.
Right. But back to Anora. Yeah, I mean, like it was awesome. There's actually a young actress in there that I forgot. I read that she was going to be in the movie, but she I forgot when I got into the theater, and she's the girl Ivy Woke. She's in the she's the girl who is the cashier at the candy store, that sort of annoying girl.
Right. Yeah.
I really like her. Like I don't think she's the best actress in the world, but I think that she's got a vibe, like a kind of like acerbic personality that I don't know. I'd like to see her in more stuff. I think she could be a lot better, but she definitely needs to work on her acting. Like there's a part where after they bust up the candy shop and she's acting scared, I'm just like, oof, she's not very good at acting. She's not okay. She's okay, ready, act scared. 1, 2, 3, and she starts just like breathing heavily and kind of like artificially chattering her teeth, and it's just like, oh, yikes. But when she's just partying and having fun and being sassy, like that's in her element, and that's good. But anyways, yeah, blah 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 blah, all this shit. Like the movie. I was sitting there with my girlfriend in the theater, and totally 100% just locked in. This is awesome. And then when it gets to the part where the conflict starts, and these two guys come to the house, and there's that whole thing in the living room where they're trying to tie her up, and then the guy, the Russian Timothy Chalamet, like runs out the front door, and they're trying to deal with her, and then they call that guy who's at the baptism and all this stuff. I started to get like I started to find it to be kind of tiresome, like because it felt like this was supposed to be kind of like a bumbling kind of comedy, like I was expected to be sitting there just like guffawing with laughter at sort of the boneheadedness of these two whatever, like Armenian enforcers. And I mean, if there would just been like just a touch of that, I think I would have been fine. But it just stays there for so long, and then they're running around, I guess Brighton Beach, yeah, or New York, looking for the guy, and it's just and then you can tell that a lot of what was going on in that scene. I would assume, I guess maybe I could be wrong, but I feel like they did sort of like a caught on camera kind of thing where the guy's going around, he's like, have you seen this boy? And they're just doing it to like just real people, and then getting release papers signed later, trying to add authenticity to the film. That's what it felt like. Maybe they were paid performers, I don't know. But it just felt to me like the stakes at this point of the film weren't very high, because these guys didn't seem like terribly dangerous, and I know that that's not really what this movie's about. It's not like, oh, they're going to start, oh, we can't get a ring off, take off the finger. I knew it's not going to be like Eastern Promises sort of thing, but at the same time, it's like, well, I already know where this is going. Like the guy ran away, and we know the kind of guy he is, and I know it just felt very eventual, and I knew where it was going to end. But I will say that once the parents arrived and we got back to Las Vegas and that whole thing went down, and then the ending, it's like then I'm back on board, and it so there's just this big flabby section in the center of the film that I think is sort of like tiresome and your favorite word, ponderous. And then it kind of like catches you, maybe 20 minutes before the ending, and it just locks you right back in. And the ending is just so like great, and how do you say, like, it's one of those things where it's like, it's like stupid people, like stupid fucking general audience members will be like, I'm sorry to spoil this for everyone, but it's like, why is she crying? Why did she cry? Like, why is she having sex with the guy and then crying? And it's like stupid general audience people will ask that question, but I don't need to. Like, I totally get it. But at the same time, if you asked me, I don't know that I could actually describe it, but I do get it, and that's the kind of thing. I mean, why do you make a painting, right? Well, you make a painting because there's things that you can't express in written word. So you have to go beyond written word, and you have to do something visual to sort of capture something that's maybe not possible to catch in language. And that's the same thing. Like, I just felt like the ending was just, it's just taking advantage of like cinema. Like that's good drama cinema for me, Right. And it's just like, and then credits roll, and you're just like, left with sort of this, a bunch of conflicting emotions in your head, melancholy, but also kind of like relief a little bit. She got that ring back. She's probably got, I don't know, that's like maybe $180,000 ring. And maybe, she's kind of developed this sort of relationship with this Igor guy, this sweet guy. I mean, I don't know, like that doesn't, for me, like that doesn't seem like a viable relationship at all. That doesn't seem like they're gonna, it seems like something that maybe will, if they tried to make it work, I don't think it would last for very long. They're both kind of damaged people, and maybe that's what the whole movie's about. Is just sort of this maybe she's realizing sort of how she is kind of a damaged girl, and maybe even just the fact that she thought that this could work is just sort of emphasizes her own inability to kind of deal with life, and or maybe it's like it just emphasizes how naive she actually is, even though she really thinks that she's kind of on top of shit, and she's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm a dancer, and I know how to deal with people, and I know how to hustle and make money, and I'm 23, like I'm an adult, but like maybe this whole situation just sort of revealed to her how totally out of her depth she is just in life, and just she just got dealt a real hard one. But there is a little bit of a softening to that because of the ring, and because of maybe this friendship that she developed with this Igor character. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got to say about it. Like overall, I mean, this is a Sean Baker movie is always going to give you like a huge home run, like just something like way better than anything else you could possibly see in a theater. But I have to note that the middle for me left me kind of like wincing a little bit, and I would say that in his oeuvre, this one is definitely not the highest for me. Like I think Red Rocket is a much more interesting. Oh, by the way, we'll get to cast a little later, but I really liked how he brought back that Mexican. Do you remember the sort of Mexican gangster who was in Red Rocket? She was in the backyard, and she comes back as the bodyguard at the club. Mm-hmm. Like, I love her. I'm really happy.
He seems to have like a couple like regulars in his casting roster that he goes to, because the main sort of Armenian guy that's running point on trying to find the kid, he's in he's in Tangerine.
Right.
He's like he's like the cab driver out there looking for some sweet tranny action.
Yeah.
And I just watched Takeout too, and he's one of the customers in Takeout.
Right. Yeah. I that's the one I haven't seen. I haven't seen Takeout yet, but should I watch Takeout?
Yeah, I think it's worth seeing. I mean, everything he does is worth seeing. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything that's. I was just like, yeah, that was a big miss.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that probably this one has the most like just. I mean, this I feel like a fucking loser criticizing this, but this and criticizing it this way, but this one has the biggest like pacing problem or structural problem or whatever. Like, just a kind of loses the tone. It loses kind of my goodwill during that part that I mentioned already. Like,
yeah,
I don't really.
I think it's a very good movie. I liked it a lot. But I do see your points. Like, I do feel like, and even sort of in the romance part, like there was some moments during the whole like build up that I was kind of feeling like, okay, let's get to when's the hammer going to drop? Like, what is, and so I was getting a little, I was
impatient?
Kind of feeling that way, impatient. And then also during the hunt for the Russian kid, there again, I was feeling like, and I feel like these criticisms are both extremely minor. Yeah, I was again feeling like, well, when are we going to find this fucking kid already? But yeah, I wouldn't say that either of those criticisms impeded me from enjoying the film. I liked the girl who's playing Anora. I liked the Russian kid. I liked their whole the whole buildup of I like how their romance sort of evolves for the most part. And you really get a sense that like she's more than just like this opportunist that sees like, hey, this guy's rich, I need to latch on to him. Like, she really likes him or eventually loves him. Like, I think she really develops very strong feelings for him. And I think like there's that scene where they're fucking and she's like, look, slow down. Here's the right way to fuck. She's basically teaching him how to fuck. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if she didn't have feelings for him, she would have just been like, just get it over with and let me get out of here. So like that's like a really sort of interesting way of kind of like showing like, oh, she really cares about him. She wants to show him how to fuck her the right way. Yeah. So, like I liked all that stuff. I liked that there was, this was a movie that has like sex in it. And yeah, unlike I actually didn't have a problem with the bodyguards. I thought like I didn't think that they were so retarded and bumbling that they were like just like completely cartoon characters. But at the same time, I thought like they're not like the sort of cliche Russian like gangsters like we're going to cut your finger off and we're big and nasty guys. You better do what we say. Like they seem to be like, okay, we have a job to do, but we don't want to do anything that's like illegal or that we're going to get in trouble for. So they were still trying to be careful about what they were doing for the most part. And I wasn't really 100% sure what was going to happen in the end. Like I wasn't 100% sure that like, is their love affair going to make it, or is it going to be completely destroyed? Like when they find this kid, what's his react? Is he just going to be completely like, oh, whatever, which, that's kind of how he is. Or is he going to be like, he'll sober up and realize like, oh no, I really love you and I want to be like, I still wasn't 100% sure where it was going.
I guess I wasn't 100%. If I'm being perfectly honest, I wasn't 100% sure either. But like, they do kind of broadcast like the parts where he's playing video games and she's just kind of like, boredly kind of, embracing him, like kind of cuddling with him, and he's just playing video games like that. That's who he is, Like, and I think I had a pretty good idea of like how it was going to go. This guy didn't seem like he was going to fight for anything, and the only kind of thing I was hoping for was like some kind of interesting twist that was set up earlier that maybe I didn't catch, and then sort of like, and I mean, we kind of got that when the guy, they were trying to annul the marriage in the New York courthouse, and it turned out, they got married in Nevada, and I thought that was going to throw a wrench into the plan, but it really just prolonged the whole thing.
Well, even that moment where like she's talking to the Russian kid's mother, and she's like, "I'm going to get an attorney, and I'm going to fight this, and you'll see." And then the Russian mother was like, "If you even try to do any of that, I'm going to ruin your life in every possible way."
Yeah.
So you really, it's clear that there's nothing that's going to stop the annulment of the marriage. And the only thing that would have stopped it is if the kid finally just stepped up and stood up to his parents. Because, that isn't out of the realm of possibility, whether he's playing video games at the beginning or not. Like, he could have some sort of arc where he's finally like, he could, like, at any moment, he could just stand up and be like, fuck you guys, I'm going to stay with this girl. And it doesn't. Not that I was, totally shocked that he didn't, but I kind of didn't necessarily know what was going to happen. And I was like, nothing I felt was like really 100% guaranteed. And I know like they do sort of broadcast the bodyguard with the shaved head is kind of like always sort of making these moon eyes at Anora throughout the whole movie, and you feel like there's something brewing between the two of them. But I mean, that could have just been leading up to something where he's trying to do something to, like, he just is trying to help her, and even if helping her means getting back together with that, rich kid, he would have done it, to sort of like martyr himself. He seemed like that kind of guy. That could have happened too. And then at the end too, that the scene in the car where like, I didn't know that he was going to give her the ring. I didn't know any of that stuff. So that was cool. And then, her fucking him in the car. Like, I just felt like that was just, I don't necessarily think like, oh, they're now the new hot couple on the scene. I just thought I was just like, this is just some, she just went through this like big emotional, like Cinderella sort of tragedy where like she finds Prince Charming and he's just, and her whole life is just like, she's not stripping anymore. She gets out of the house. She's sharing a house with her sister and her boyfriend and like next to a train track. Like, this is her exit out of here. Like, all her dreams come true in like a day, and now they're gone, like, in just as quickly. And I just feel like all this sort of the fucking at the end is just like all this emotion pouring out of her in that one moment.
Well, she thought she she thought that this was her other chance of being saved, or like, because she wants to be saved. Like, she just, she thought she got saved, and she thought she that's the thing too, is that like, I don't, first of all, let me just clarify a few things. Like, I didn't think that the two bodyguard characters themselves were cartoonish. I just felt like that sequence in the living room and how long it went on for, and all the slapstick, I felt that sequence was cartoonish. But the characters I felt were sound, and I liked them. I don't have a problem with those characters. I just have a problem with just that scene, specifically how long that scene was, and also how it felt to me like I was expected to just be, like I said before, guffawing the whole time. Like, this is just hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, it's not that funny. It's just sort of, a lot of her screaming at the top of her lungs, you know, and saying motherfucker a lot. And then regarding the ending scene, like, you know, it like, you know, her sort of initiating sex with that guy, it speaks more to just kind of like who she is and like what she knows and, you know,
Right.
what love is to her and what it like sort of it's just all she knows. That she's just that kind of person. And it's the same thing too. Like before when you were saying like, you know, she developed like real feelings for this guy, you know, and it's like I don't know that she did. I think she just kind of developed real feelings for just the situation at large and just kind of like I don't have to worry anymore. And this guy's nice to me and he's sweet, you know, but you know, she doesn't really like love him. She just
we're sort of, you know, these are all sort of like conjectures as far as like, I mean, just on the surface, she looks like she seems like she's in love with him. You know, whether or not she knows that the feelings that she's having are love or not, like, you know, that's something that can happen. I feel like you think you love somebody or something, and then it turns out like, well, maybe those feelings were, maybe I was just in lust, or maybe I was just this or that. You didn't know that it was, you know, really what genuine love is. But I feel like whatever her interpretation of love is, I think she has genuine, though she has those feelings for this kid.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. But I'm just saying, like, looking back, like, I mean, she's 23 and he's 21, you know, and it's like, you know, that almost never happens. Like, you know, it's impossible for you to fall in love at that time in a way that warrants getting married, you know? I mean,
yeah, sure, okay. Is her interpretation of what love is immature? Probably,
yes.
But whatever she's feeling, or whatever she thinks she's feeling, it seems like she's in love with him.
Yeah, no, I agree. But the question is like, you know, should she get married to this guy? And my answer would be like, yeah, for sure, he's rich. Like that's a great idea, you know. And but that really is the circumstance that you know, makes the difference. You know, if he was just some fucking goofy, cute dude who just partied a lot.
If he was doing the same thing, but he was like living in an apartment in Queens,
yeah,
would we be in the same situation? Probably not.
Right.
But again, like I said, I mean, this is like a Cinderella. Like he's taking the Cinderella story and giving it the sort of like a realism to it. Like, okay, Prince Charming is marrying this you know, poor cleaning woman. What happens the next day? Is his family cool with that? Like, how does, or like even Pretty Woman with Richard Gere? Like, okay, you're marrying a hooker. Now your family steps in and be like, you married who? You're not marrying a hooker. Not on my watch.
George Costanza steps in and tries to rape Julia Roberts.
Right.
That part was so cool. I love seeing George Costanza like trying to rape a woman like that. That was a revelation. I just watched The Burning recently. Like rewatched The Burning.
I remember that. He's in that.
Yeah. He's so funny. He doesn't change, and he's probably like 18 in that. But
he has hair in it. That's
I mean, it's already going, and you get to see his ass and like. But yeah, he already looks like he's probably like 38 years old, and he's probably, you know, in real life he's 19 at that point. But yeah, I mean, I understand it's a Cinderella story. I get that, but the movie invites you to. I mean, they draw the characters so richly that you're invited to talk about them and to think about them as real people and to really. And for us to do what we're doing now and talk about like what's going on in their heads and
sure.
You know, how do you think she felt about this and like how do you think that part made, because it's very considered and that's what makes all of Sean Baker's films so great. Is just
and I also sort of feel like her, you know, when like when they sort of tie her up and shit, and they're like, "You're getting an annulment," and she's like, "No," and I can't. I wish I remembered the kid's name in the movie, but
Ivan.
Ivan,
isn't it Ivan?
I don't remember, but she's sort of like, once he's not gonna, like, once, like, where is he? As soon as he like, if he's here, he wouldn't, like, she seems to have expectations of him, like he's not going to want to get an annulment. Like, why would he want an annulment? So there is this sort. She does have these sort of ideas, feelings that, like, this guy loves her too. Like, he's the one who proposed marriage to her, and they're like, she feels some kind of connection that is of some significance. It's not just like, I got to do whatever I can to hold on to Mr. Moneybags. It feels more. It feels deeper than that.
I feel like we're kind of. I agree with you, but for a different. I think that, like, she just is so like unwilling and just desperate. There's this. That's the thing. That's maybe the word. There's this desperation in Anora, where it's like she is, just unwilling to just accept, like, that, this isn't she hasn't made it. She hasn't sort of, finally figured out her life, and this can be her life, and she can stop debasing herself. Or, at the end of the day, like, she doesn't seem like she hates her job, but, she is like a stripper or whatever.
Right.
Dancer.
But if you had a choice between being a stripper and living in a mansion with
and not having to
dollars,
do and just doing literally whatever you want all the time. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, so she's kind of like, no, like, this is what I want. I don't want to have to go back to that life that I had before, sleeping in that fucking apartment, in that little tiny house with my sister and her boyfriend. But she's kind of like transposing all of that onto him and being like, he's gonna, this can't end. And because I can't allow this to end, I have to believe that he's going to be the guy my husband is the guy who comes in and fucking.
But I feel like if he
saves me,
he's a nice kid. She has, she does have some sort of affection for him. I don't, whether or not you want to call it love is debatable. She might think it is.
I think it's love. But it's the immature kind of, like, early 20s love, where you feel a lot of stuff and you probably love more intensely than you do when you get older. But it doesn't have. I mean, it means different things when you're at different ages. Like, there's this sort of the sort of family building kind of love that you get when you're older, and then there's just sort of the flooding of brain chemicals love that you get when you're like 22 or 23 or whatever.
But if he was, like, let's say if he was obese or mean or rude or an idiot, I don't know. Like, I feel like they have, we see plenty of moments of them talking together. There is a chemistry between the two of them. There is and granted, it is sort of like a real fast romance, but and she doesn't know everything about him clearly, but I do feel like she does feel, this sort of, I guess, immature. Let's just call it an immature love for this.
Yeah.
And an immature understanding of love in general.
Yeah. No, I mean, I 100%. I'm with you on that one.
So I do feel like there is a disappointment when her teenage Russian husband doesn't step up and make even the slightest effort to salvage their marriage. I think like she is sort of like she believes in what's going on enough that this, like, that this, when they run into this kid, when they finally find the kid, he's going to be like, oh yeah, now that I'm sober, yeah, I do love this girl, and I am going to stay married, and I do like being married to this girl. She's, whatever.
So you know what? After you saying all that, I think that the way I feel about it is more like she has so much hope, and that really is what when we say belief that he's going to do this, it's like saying you believe in God. It's just hope, and
Right.
but really at the bottom of her heart, she knows that she knows that this guy's he's in it for a good time, not necessarily for a long time. She knows the kind of guy that this guy is, and she's
Well,
like, yeah,
eventually, like it definitely, like maybe at the very beginning, like you said, there's hope, and he's not, like I said, he's not a terrible person. He's kind of goofy, but he's not. He doesn't seem like he doesn't seem like what he eventually turns out to be, which is a sort of a spineless, cowardly, immature, like immature in the way of like being somewhat responsible.
yeah.
And even like, whatever, like he definitely, he's charming. So you can see why somebody would have feelings for him.
Sure. I mean, he's generous, he's carefree, and he's like always in a good mood, which are all things that I would ascribe to someone who has limitless wealth,
Right.
and who's had limitless wealth for their entire life. But I think that coming back to just what she's feeling throughout the time that she's with those bodyguards and they're going to look for him, it's like maybe during that entire time that like it starts off with just sort of this strong belief that he's going to come through for her, and then as that kind of time progresses, she starts to kind of come back down to earth.
It starts to unravel as they keep looking for him, and once the parents become involved, like once he sobers up and it seems very clear that he's not even going to lift a finger to salvage, and it's almost like he becomes like a completely different person in the presence of his parents. The fun loving is gone, the goofy is gone. He just becomes like very emotionless and just a puppet.
Yeah.
To his,
and then there's
to
also,
his, I probably more for his mother. The father just kind of sits there and laughs, but the mother's like a very evil, domineering character.
Yeah. No,
he just kind of just falls in line when she kind of shows up.
Yeah. Also, just the lack of, or maybe not the lack of the respect for Anora just sucks right out of him. And it kind of must have made her kind of feel like, oh, you actually didn't respect me this whole time. Mm-hmm. And again, like sort of this marriage thing is just it's not really a commitment. It's just sort of like a funny fun thing to do. I got married in Vegas, like it's sort of just a funny kind of American thing for him to do. Like,
hey, I threw fireworks off the porch on Thanksgiving, like that.
Yeah, it's like that. No, it wasn't off the porch. It was on the porch.
Oh, on the porch.
It was happening amongst people.
Okay.
But so it's kind of like just it's all he's like solipsist, like it's all just him. It's all right. About what he's doing and how he's feeling, and he's not actually looking at anybody as a real person. They're all just kind of
there's no
actors in his life.
He's not like thinking about what he's doing. It's all just he's just living by the seat of his pants
or how anybody feels. Like, I mean, he obviously
right.
like he can be empathetic enough to know that if someone's feeling like, I want you to feel happy. We're both getting massages, hey, Anora or Annie, are you happy? She says, yeah, I'm very happy. And he cares if she's happy, because if she's happy, then he's happy,
Right.
but once her happiness is not related to him being happy anymore, or it conflicts with sort of a larger issue, like i.e. Pissing off his parents, then all of a sudden her being happy doesn't matter anymore. In fact, it matters like less than nothing, you know? Right. So that's what's
well,
up.
Now his mother comes in and her happiness eclipses everyone's.
Right. Or just, also like remember that part where the first moment that his mother enters the room in that little airport, he's embracing her midsection and just kind of like rubbing his face on her belly like a toddler, and it's just like, oh, okay, that's who this guy is. That's who this guy is. But anyways, yeah. So yeah, Anora. I mean, in terms of a rating, I mean, you have to give it at least a 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'd give it a 4.
Yeah, it's impossible to not, just because of how just bold and again how much better it is than everything else, and also a word that we haven't used, just how human it is, and like how much of a refreshing kind of relief it is to just see something like this still being made, where it's actually like, it feels like real people and real emotions and a story that is like worth getting invested into. Mm-hmm. So.
And I mean, as far as like, if we were going to rank Sean Baker, I still would say Red Rocket, still my favorite. There's something about like that the Simon Rex character, I think, in general, when you have like that type of a rogue main character who's doing all these crazy things, and he's up to sort of like everything he's involved in is some kind of like scheme behind somebody's back. Yeah. It's automatically more compelling than anything. And I mean, Anora's interesting, but she's not as interesting as the Simon Rex character in Red Rocket.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about Simon Rex's character in Red Rocket, where it's like he's essentially. I mean, if anyone else were to do Red Rocket, we're talking about Red Rocket now. If anyone else were to do that movie, he would be coded as more of a villain, or sort of the sociopathic kind of tendencies would be kind of emphasized more. But in Red Rocket, like every tool is used to endear you to him and to make you like him, and
right.
And he's and you get all caught up in his charisma, and it's cool because you end up being on the receiving end of his bullshit. Like you get kind of seduced by him as an audience member, and then you realize that he's I mean, just as you said, like, every single dealing that he does is a con, and you realize that he almost can't even help himself. This is what he believes life is.
Well, that to me is always like the most exciting, when you could sort of present that type of cad or a rogue character to an audience, and even though he's doing these double dealings behind people's backs and lying and cheating and manipulating, you're still like, you're engaged. You want him to succeed. You care about him.
Right.
And that to me is sort of like great. That's always great storytelling.
Even when he's clearly doing damaging things to characters that are, for lack of a better word, like innocent, or like right. Characters that are, that you like. Sean Baker, leads you to like that girl, the red-haired girl, to a lesser extent that neighbor who he kind of becomes his fan, because he's like a fan of porn or whatever. But these characters are just kind of naive, sweet, kind of just, they're not hurting anybody. But Simon Rex just comes along and kind of takes advantage of whatever he can, just kind of steps in and eats their cupboards bare, you know, and would leave them in the dust in a second. You know, you know who he is? He's hey man, he's a lot like fucking Ivan Vanya in Anora, except that he's just, I mean, Simon Rex has got that big schlong and kind of just sort of this fast talking, wheeling dealing, 3-card Monty kind of guy. Sort of toolbox, whereas Vanya just has limitless wealth. That's the engine behind his, let's say, sociopathy.
Yeah, Vanya's not as slick as Simon Rex. Like he's like you with Simon Rex. He's definitely premeditated in his cons. Like he's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to get this girl to do this, and then I'm going to, you know, whereas, you know, I'm going to trick my ex-wife to let me in, and then I'm going to start selling weed. Like whereas Vanya's just kind of like, well, what are we going to do today? Oh, let's go to Vegas. Let's fuck a hooker. Let's do this. You know, and also Simon Rex is like on the balls of his ass when we meet him in Red Rocket. Vanya's never on the balls of his ass, even when he's, you know, sort of cowed by his mother at the end. He's still, you know, he's still rich.
Yeah,
like he still has plenty of. He still lives in a big mansion. He could still move on to the next Anora if he felt like it.
They're never gonna kick him out. They're never gonna like cut him off. But what I'm saying is, like, you know, when you're Simon Rex and you're just, let's just say that what they share is sort of this, I don't know, let's just say like a kind of narcissism or I don't know, just sort of like sort of shameless kind of greed. I'm not really sure exactly how to put it, but like when you're Simon Rex and you don't have anything, you have to have like predatory qualities to kind of get what you want. Whereas for Vanya to get what he wants, he doesn't really have to work, so it's easy for him to just wear his heart on his sleeve, and he can actually show his true emotions like as he perceives them all the time, because it doesn't matter if he you know overshares or if he kind of you know tells the truth at all times, because it doesn't matter. He's fucking rich, as long as he doesn't fucking give his fucking PIN number for his bank account. You know, he's always going to be okay. So that's what's up.
Yeah, it's good. I liked Anora. 4 eggplants.
Yeah. 4 big Sean Baker. Simon Rex fucking eggplants.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. We should probably continue on with another film, because you know we're I'm not sure how often I'm going to be able to do these anymore. I still want to do them because I think that they're good for me. I feel like I told you, I've said this already a bunch of times on the podcast, but like knowing that I have to talk about a movie makes me experience a movie a little differently. And I'm kind of just like, I try to like look into things a little more as opposed to just being kind of passive. But you know, we could talk about Black Sunday, because I just actually rewatched that a couple days ago. But you know, that's your you know, sort of late 70s Jewish revenge film, super Jew film, with Robert Shaw as a Mossad agent who's hell-bent on stopping a terrorist attack on the Super Bowl. Interesting thing to consider is that this movie, when it first came out, was you know, I'd say like received like moderate to fair reviews, but the ones who didn't like it criticized it for being so unrealistic that a terrorist attack like this would happen on American soil. They were like, no way, you know. But so it's funny just how like, oh well, you know, just wait a few years and next thing you know, you got one that doesn't seem so unrealistic anymore, you know.
I always just kind of avoided it because it just looked like, I don't know, like the poster. There's a blimp coming at the Super Bowl. Like it's sort of implying, oh, this blimp's going to crash into the Super Bowl. It just didn't interest me. Like I don't care about the Super Bowl. I don't care about blimps. I care a little bit more about blimps than I do the Super Bowl, but that's not saying much. I don't know. Like I didn't really know much about it other than that, and so just like that, like oh no, the Super Bowl's in danger. It wasn't something that was really grabbing me.
That's the nerd in you. You're like, good. All those fucking jocks are going to get what's coming to them.
I was glad but then you'd think I'd see it just like, oh yeah, I want to see those. I want to see all these football fans get killed by a blimp. But even that didn't get me to watch it.
Yeah,
because somebody's Robert Shaw or whoever's going to come in and save the day. They're not really going to kill football fans.
Yeah, not in my America. I was going to say though that what got me to watch this movie was reading the Silence of the Lambs, like not seeing the movie but reading the book and also reading, and just sort of noticing how Thomas Harris is. I mean, you ever read any of his books before?
No.
I think he's an excellent writer, but but I don't know. You have different ideas about what makes a good writer. Like I like Clive Barker. You think he sucks?
Yeah, I don't like him at all. I think he's terrible.
I think he's awesome. I think his prose is awesome. Just like I'm envious of it. But in any case, and also I like to think that when I write it's like a retarded Clive Barker. It's like a Clive Barker with Down syndrome.
That might be better.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe he's too smart for his own good.
Did you ever see the Woody Allen movie, Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask?
Is that the one that's like in little segments?
Yeah, little vignettes.
Yeah. I have seen that, but I saw that like a long time ago when I was in high school. Is there one that? Hold on a second. Is there one that takes place like inside some, like it's like a bunch of people like operating switches and stuff inside of someone's brain? Like it's like
there's one where there's like all these sperm that are about to like in the different sperm are played by actors like Tony Randall and Woody Allen and like there's like it's like almost like a like a military operation.
Yeah.
Like, okay, all the sperm are about to like leave the body, this guy's penis, and go into the woman. And but the only reason I bring it up is because there's one of the stories I remember. Like, there's a giant tit that's like chasing Woody Allen around, and that's what I thought of when I saw the blimp crashing into the Super Bowl in Black Sunday. Like, it just seems like this big giant tit that's like crashing into people.
When did Everything You Wanted to Know About Sex But Were Afraid to Ask come out? What year? Was it an 80s? That seems like an 80s one.
No, it came out in the 70s. Like, I'm going to say it's pre Black Sunday.
No, I'm thinking if it's I was thinking if it was pre or post Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Oh, I think it's pre-Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Maybe Attack of the Killer Tomatoes copied that, like it was like a homage. You know that where they just have that big paper mache tomato like on a shopping cart basically, and it's just chasing people around. But I don't know. Like Thomas Harris's writing, I really like a lot, and then I immediately afterwards I read Hannibal, and then I read. I guess I'm wondering if I read. No, dude. Okay, I read Red Dragon, and then I read Silence of the Lambs because I saw Manhunter, Michael Mann's Manhunter, like well after seeing Silence of the Lambs, and I was just like, damn, this is like my favorite movie. So then I read the Red Dragon book, and then I just thought, okay, well, I'll read all of these, and I read all of them except for the one after Hannibal. I think it might have been called Hannibal Rising, because I heard it was terrible.
Okay.
But so I read those 3 books, and then I thought, well, what else does he have? And it's like, all he has, the only thing substantial that he has other than those Hannibal Lecter books is Black Sunday. And so I looked into that, and then I found out there was a movie, so I watched the movie first. But I found out that Thomas Harris actually, I read a little bit about him, and this is just from memory, so I could be wrong, but I think I'm right. He's said on record that he actually hates writing. Like, it's this torturous, horrible experience for him. Like, just, it doesn't come out of him easy. He's not like a Stephen King who just sits down and shits out like 8 pages a day.
One horrible book after the next.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's just this laborious, arduous, horrible, lonely experience for poor Thomas Harris, And I relate to that because I hate writing. I hate it so much. But at the same time, you have to, and I think you do too. So just I just related to it a lot, and for some reason I just felt like, this is my guy.
It's definitely an activity you have to like gird yourself for. Like, I have to write. I gotta write at this time. I gotta sit down and do it. Like, it's never just like a casual like, okay, time to write, la di da. It's.
Yeah, because you have to use kind of like all of that one part of your brain to do it. Whereas, like, we've talked about this before on the episode where we talked about your comics and stuff. Like, there is a part during the comic page creation process where you can just put on a movie in the background, or you can put on a book, an audio book, or you can put on a podcast, or you can put on music, and you can just kind of like have a nice time and let sort of that part of your brain kind of do the thing. And but with writing, it's like, for me anyways, everything has to be off. I tend to put on, like, I can't even listen to music, to rhythmic music. I have to like I have to put something on. No, I have to put on like just like droning sounds, just like, like ambient dronings for.
Well, I mean, it's just sort of like you're alone with your mind for, depending on how long you're sitting there working, an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, and it's challenging. It's
oppressive. I feel like the wall's closing in on me. Like, especially if there's no music. If there's no music, then it's like, Jesus Christ, I want to die. But then there's also kind of like these little bursts that you get where you get into something, and then you'll just shit out a whole page, and you'll be like, yes, and then that'll feel good. And those are kind of like so few and far between. But when they hit, they're good. Right. It's kind of like playing baseball, or watching baseball. But regarding Black Sunday, John Frankenheimer film, the great John Frankenheimer. What was I going to say about it? Oh yeah. Another thing about Thomas Harris, cordon bleu trained chef, gourmet chef. Mm-hmm. I like that too about him. I think that probably informs a lot of the Hannibal shit, like, him making human food or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we got Robert Shaw, we got the great Bruce Dern, we got Martha Keller from. Do you remember what she was in? Mm-mm. She was the Swiss girl in Marathon, or the German girl in Marathon Man, the girlfriend of Dustin Hoffman. Okay. She's like, I love him. Okay, I love him. Mm-hmm. So that girl, and then you got Fritz Weaver, brother of my favorite actor in the world, Dennis Weaver, and that's basically it.
Oh, what about that actor?
The guy from Alligator.
Another actor that killed himself. The guy who was in, was he an Alligator?
Well, the guy who's
you're no, I'm talking about the other Israeli who gets killed in the hospital. He was in Silent Rage with Chuck Norris. He plays the sort of evil doctor that is bringing back the homicidal maniac to life because he's doing like experiments. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm blanking on his name.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I could look it up, but you know.
But you know what I'm talking about. Like there's two Israeli dudes who are hunting the Palestinian woman in Black Sunday.
Yeah.
And when Robert Shaw, after he gets blown up on the ship after a failed assassination attempt, that's actually kind of a cool assassination when they blow the head off of the Japanese boat captain. But Robert Shaw survives and he goes to the hospital, and so they know
is it Ron Silver?
No,
okay, because he's dead.
Ron Silver didn't kill himself.
Oh, he died of esophageal cancer.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know who you're talking about, man. You're gonna have to do the labor on that one.
Any podcast fans out there who can call in right now with the name.
Okay, how about this? Hold on. We got Stephen Keats.
That's him.
Okay, that's it.
I think that's him. So he's the other guy who's playing. He's actually plays a better Israeli than Robert Shaw. Robert Shaw's a horrible Israeli. Yeah, I don't even know what accent he's doing. It's like a weird. I don't know. It's like somebody like a white person pretending to be Apu from The Simpsons or something. Yeah,
basically, anytime I do an accent.
Sounds like your French accent for Beaupere. Yeah. So when Stephen Keats he's the Palestinian woman is come into the hospital to poison Robert Shaw, and Keats catches her, and he gets killed in the elevator.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh, right. When she's posing as a nurse.
Right. So he kills himself later in real life.
I was going to say Michael V. Gazzo is in this film as well. He was an alligator as the clerk at the pet store.
The clerk at the pet store.
Oh no, my bad.
The clerk at the pet store was Charlie Cheswick from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, so then there's a couple. Sorry, Michael Gazzo from The Godfather 2 is
he's the bald guy who runs the import company.
Yeah,
he's the police captain in Alligator.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. You know what? That's funny. Like, I'm remembering that scene right now where he puts the gun into his mouth. Robert Shaw, and I'm remembering it as the fucking One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest guy, but it actually was Michael Gazzo. That's crazy. That's like some AI shit where it's like, you transpose Arnold Schwarzenegger's face on Sylvester Stallone's. But anyways, the
Mandela effect.
Let's talk about Bruce Dern as a Vietnam vet who hates America. Why does he hate America in this film? How could you hate America?
It's not really 100% clear how he is connected with this PLO woman, other than, like if this movie was made today, you'd be like, oh, they met on the I Hate America message board or something. Mm-hmm. But yeah, in this film, which is like late 70s, you're like, how did this sort of like Vietnam vet who's become kind of
disgruntled,
disgruntled, and he's just not. He feels betrayed by his country. Suddenly, like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to did he get involved with the Palestinian woman or the terrorist organization first, and then decide to do the whole flying an enormous nail bomb with a blimp into the Super Bowl idea? Or did the PLO people bring that idea to him? Like, how did they, it's not really clear who was working for who.
Well, there is, I think that there is a little bit of inference that has to happen there, but I do think it's clear enough. There is a line in the film saying where Marth Keller says, he came to us after all, so they, I think that his initial kind of connection with the PLO or PLA?
PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization.
Right. So the PLO just, somehow got in. Bruce Dern got in touch with them, and then Mark Keller was kind of like put on the scene to kind of control.
But then
him.
it sort of begs the question, like, why did he get in touch with them? Like, why does he need them? Like,
because
why not get in touch with, say, like another disgruntled veteran to help him? Like, why does he need the PLO?
Well, because I mean, again, I have to infer a little bit, but I mean, they're just a lot more organized and they're a lot more serious. I mean, they're a lot more organized than some other fucking drug addict. Ex-POW. He got it. He just figured. I think that he just figured that he could get backing from.
Did you say that you read the book?
I did. Yes.
Is there any information in the book about like how they get together, or it's the same?
I mean, it's really difficult for me to like cite the book at this point in time, but I can quote from the film that like Bruce Dern has no interest in PLO politics. He's just interested in the carnage, and he has that would make him volatile and untrustworthy, except for the woman, the Martha Keller, who kind of controls him, and there is like a lot of I do remember that there's a lot of emphasis on like how she kind of manipulates him with sex in the book.
Yeah, like they kind of hinted that in the movie. I feel like there could have been a little bit more of that.
Yeah, like there's a part in the book where it says that she gives him a blowjob, but she like puts like fragrant Arab oils into her mouth first. That's
racist. Why do they have to be Arab oils?
Well, I don't know. Maybe it didn't say that. Maybe I added that myself. But I'm just imagining just like, there being like rugs everywhere and like, sort of.
She puts 2 falafels in her mouth. And
then puts the dick between.
Oh, man, that feels so good.
One in each cheek. She
jerks him off with a pita.
Damn. All right. So
I did like her. Like I felt like she was a good villain. Like there was something about her that like she seemed like she didn't seem evil. She just seemed like very just sort of compelled to like, this is just what I have to do to, get this job done.
Yeah, no, you're really big into that. You're really big into people who are not motivated by like emotions. They're motivated by like clear, tangible tasks.
There's something
clear,
more,
tangible goals.
There's something like scarier with that because it's sort of like I don't know, like all emotion. Like what they're doing is like to them like very logical and needs to be done. There's something scarier in that than just sort of like, I'm mad and I'm going to kill everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, it feels like, once that person calms down, they're going to regret what they, or like, if something alters their mental state, they might come around and not do the evil thing that they do. Whereas like if somebody is completely just like all business, this has to be done, I have to kill everybody in the Super Bowl, and yeah, there's just some, and like I'm not going to, like, this is just like nothing's going to stop me from reaching this, getting this goal, doing this job. Yeah, there's something that's more chilling in somebody who's doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think an argument can be made for both, like, someone who's motivated by like, I don't know, there's a lot of crossover too, someone motivated by revenge, I mean,
revenge doesn't feel scary. Like revenge feels like if you're looking for revenge because like, oh, you killed my wife, then you're kind of like, yeah, get that guy that killed your wife. And
she's motivated by revenge. Like make a mistake.
You kind of like relate to it a bit more. Whereas, well, that's the thing. Like Bruce Dern, he's the emotional one. She's not emotional. And I feel like she's scarier than Bruce Dern. Like Bruce Dern is like her puppet. Like she's just using him.
Attack dog. I was going to say that, like she, you hear her history. She grew up. I think it's like she grew up in like Gaza or some shit, and then her sister and mother were forced out of where they lived, and then her sister was raped, and her mother died of pneumonia or some shit. So she, all she knows is just Israeli soldiers just like raping and murdering her family, and then maybe she's gone through the emotional. She's gone through the Bruce Dern part of her life already, but just based on whatever factors, just maybe it's sort of like a nature versus nurture kind of situation. But what it amounts to is her, sublimating all that into just being like a very organized and motivated terrorist, as opposed to Bruce Dern, who's sort of an emotional mess.
Right.
But I mean, we haven't really gotten into Bruce Dern very much. Like it's very. There's a lot of like sex in this. When I say sex, I don't mean like it's not like a Russ Meyer film, but I mean it's like there's a lot of sexual motivation and sexual coercion, and like for example, as I said before, that woman's main tool in manipulating Bruce Dern is sex, and then also Bruce Dern's like revenge is motivated by like his wife. In large part by like his wife leaving him while he was a POW, and then also like the guy who came to give the news to his wife is the guy who ends up fucking his wife, and he spent. There's a very awesome scene that I like a lot where he's talking. Bruce Dern's talking with this guy, and he's saying, "Yeah, so fucking Major fucking whatever Charles went over to my house, and he spent a long time emphasizing how a returned POW's sexual function diminishes by at least 85%. So he's not going to ever be able to fucking have sex with you ever again." And basically this guy just goes and just says like, "Look, your husband, we got your husband, but he's been tortured in Vietnam for years, sexually and otherwise. There is a line that's implied that he was like shit was put up his ass or termites put in his fucking dick hole or whatever. I don't know. But basically he's just been, look, your husband's coming back, but he's been damaged beyond repair. And, we just want you to be ready for that. And then next thing you know, this fucking guy who's giving the news to his wife is fucking his wife. And his wife is filing for divorce, just, at a distance, like over the mail or whatever, So like, he's just, So not only has the war in Vietnam's over, and Bruce Dern's still over there, but we're not going to make much of an effort, with diplomacy to get him back. We're just going to leave him there until it becomes convenient for us to bring him back. Number one. Number two, we're also going to like proactively destroy his marriage. I mean, in reality, his marriage wasn't going to work very well. But
right.
this guy goes over, and in Bruce Dern's mind, this of course is all coming from Bruce Dern, who I guess in a sense could be considered a biased narrator,
sure.
saying, oh yeah, like this guy went over there and he fucking on purpose, like gave me the raw deal, like fucked with my reputation to my wife, said that I wouldn't be able to fuck her anymore, said my dick doesn't work, and that I'm all fucked up and I piss my pants and eat my own shit now. And then all of a sudden, I'm getting divorce papers from her. America is a sham. The shit I saw over there in fucking Vietnam. He's completely lost faith in America, and he is been pushed so far that he wants to make a giant nail bomb out of plastic explosives to kill. I mean, upwards of 28,000 people at the Super Bowl, and that's all he wants to do. That's a
great scene because he really makes a point. He makes a point like we have to test it out.
Yeah,
and like so going to the shed, and that one hick thinks that he's gonna get his picture taken. Yeah, and he just turns that guy into Swiss cheese. So it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, that is awesome. Yeah, wow, that's a fancy camera you got there. Yeah, it's a panoramic. Why don't you stand over there? Put your hand on the wing of that plane. Yeah, I like that part. Bruce Dern's pretty sick. I should. I mean, what's that science fiction? Is it called like Cool Runnings or something? Do you remember the one I'm talking about? Cool Runnings is the Jamaican bobsled team.
Yeah, it's not Logan's Run. Silent.
I think it's Silent Running.
Silent but deadly.
Silent but deadly. Bruce
I don't think
Dern,
I've ever seen that, but I've seen Taboo.
Silent Running. You got it. Yeah, Bruce Dern. I mean, he's in. Fuck, Bruce Dern. Come on, let's take a look at Bruce Dern's fucking filmography here. We got, of course, The Hateful Eight that I remember him from, but that's a lot later.
Yeah, he's good in that.
Yeah, he is. He's in Hang 'em High.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it is. He's in a lot of Quentin Tarantino stuff. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
He's in a lot of Corman like biker films that are good.
Right. He's in a lot of westerns.
Yeah.
I don't know any of these fucking movies. Oh, cool. He's in the Incredible Two-Headed Transplant, the one where the black guy and the white guy share a body.
Mm-hmm. I don't remember him in that.
Yeah, I guess he must have just been sort of in the background, jerking off. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I mean, the girl, the main.
Did you ever see Tattoo with Maud Adams?
No.
Bruce Dern is like obsessed with tattooing Maud Adams.
Okay, it's what is it, like a sort of a romance or
like say like an erotic thriller?
Oh, great! Get to see Bruce Dern's old balls.
He's in Middle Age Crazy. He's also in that Hitchcock movie, Family Plot, Hitchcock's last movie, I think.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say that in Black Sunday, the most interesting thing, the highlight of the film, and the part where I light up when there are scenes, are the scenes with the Bruce Dern and that woman, that German woman, Swiss woman.
Yeah, he's also in a decent Michael Ritchie movie, Smile.
Oh, my favorite movie, Smile and Smile 2.
No, the other Smile. Michael Ritchie, I said, not whatever that dickhead's name is. Edit that out.
Yeah. It's not getting edited this time. Don't worry. Nobody. Shit. He's just joking.
Yeah, that was a joke.
Dickhead.
I want to be in Smile. I want to be in Smile 3.
Yeah, you're going to be in there. You're going to be doing the. You're going to be doing the fucking.
I want to be about. I want it to be about toxic fandom in underground comics.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a big audience for that, I think.
See, look at me. I'm smiling now.
Yeah, that's what the general audience is calling out for. More films about underground comics. But back to Black Sunday. The least interesting part for me is the shit with this hero. Like what a stuffy, bland, crappy, uncharismatic hero that we have in Robert Shaw. And
it's interesting too because he's Jaws, he's great. Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, great. I think I can't. Those are the two movies of his. When I think of Robert Shaw, that's what I think of. Mm-hmm. Here, it's just kind of like I'm like, who thought he could be like a dynamic Israeli counter terrorist hero? Like he feels out of place.
Yeah, I mean, it's when you get 1977 when you get Robert Shaw. When was Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3?
That's another 70s film. I think it's probably before this one. I'm going to say 73, 4.
Oh, that's so annoying when it's 74. You're right. So the year after Jaws. Yeah, that's annoying how when you type in the Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 and then the remake comes up first with Denzel Washington.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Me neither. But
the first one is terrific.
Yeah, I agree.
and he's great in it. You know, everybody in it's great. Walter Matthau's great. Everybody.
Right.
So yeah, to see him here, because you know Robert Shaw. How could it be bad? And it's not like he's bad, but it's just like I don't know. Like I think, like I said earlier, I think that Keats guy plays a better, more interesting Israeli counter-terrorist agent than Robert Shaw does in this film.
What it boils down to is that I wanted the bomb to go off, and I wanted those people to all die. You know, like
I did too.
You're rooting for it to. You're rooting for Robert Shaw to fail, like because you care, like you care so much more. That's the problem with the film, I think. I mean, because they didn't. There's definitely not an intention to empathize. No, you are intended to empathize with Bruce Dern. Like there's and you like that German woman. I mean, I did. I mean, and
I don't know if I liked her because I did find her a little scary. But yeah, Bruce Dern, you are, I think, you're supposed to empathize with him because he did get a raw deal. Like he is one of the forgotten, you know, people who, you know, he deserved more than he was getting, and this was him lashing out. And yeah, I think on some level you do care about Bruce Dern more than Robert Shaw.
Robert Shaw. You know, the part where the two of them are just in that little sort of garage and like and it's almost like this intimate kind of moment where Martha Keller and Bruce Dern are sitting in that little garage and they're both just kind of like kneading plastic explosives and they're just making by hand the weapon that they're going to be using to destroy to kill all these people at the Super Bowl. That part, like making the decision to put that part in the movie serves no other purpose in my mind than to make you like them and empathize with them. And kind
of let me ask you this: like, what if the whole like Israel Palestine stuff wasn't part of the story at all? What if it was just like Bruce Dern, and let's just say this was his girlfriend, or just some woman that he met who's like totally on board, and he went and was like trying to do this terrorist attack, trying to get it done. I think that changes the dynamic a great deal. Like I feel like that almost like makes you root for Bruce Dern even more to some degree than like attaching himself to the PLO. And, you know, instead of having like the Israeli agents chasing them down, like if it was just like
the FBI,
you know, FBI or American detectives or whatever, the New England Patriots, whoever, you know, was going to stop it.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, Joe Namath, you know, something like along those lines. I feel like, I don't know, like if attaching himself to the PLO, like it's almost like he had to. Maybe Thomas Harris felt like I have to attach him to the PLO because then that makes you feel like when he's stopped, it's warranted. Like he's attached himself to this evil terrorist organization or whatever, and you know, we have to stop him. Like what he's doing is not right. Whereas if he just did it solo, it would have felt a little bit more justified.
I don't know. I don't. You know, I'm pretty empathetic towards like, you know, Palestinian fucking, you know, the maintaining of like land rights and stuff.
Well, I'm speaking. I mean, not to get into the whole history of the war in Israel, but like I'm speaking like within the confines of the film, the way that the terrorist organization is presented is not in a positive light. So,
but there are, yeah, you're right. Like you're right. But then there are moments, like for example, I already outlined kind of like the history of that woman and how she just her life has just been suffering and hell at the hands of.
but conversely,
Israeli
when
government.
Robert Shaw's talking about his life, like he's getting interviewed by the nurse. Like,
Yeah.
how's your wife? Who's your wife? She's dead. Where's your kids? They're dead. You get it. You get insight into his life too. So it's sort of like both sides are getting it. Just the fact that like one is winning over the other. I don't think necessarily the difference is that Israel, at least within the movie, Israel isn't the one engaged in killing, people in a terrorist manner by filling a blimp with nails and going to the Super Bowl and killing. Like that's not even like that. That's not something that they would engage in or even consider. Whereas that's something that these Palestinian terrorists would do. I mean, you could say the same thing for any terrorist organization. I'm sure, like, you can give Osama bin Laden, he was trying to do this or that. He's actually not a bad guy. But the fact is like they're engaging in terrorism to resolve whatever issues they're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, like, if does like. Again, and this goes back to my earlier question about like Bruce Dern and this PLO woman getting together and doing this terrorist act. Could he have just done it on his own? Why did he need to join the PLO or like join the PLO, but
work with
attach himself, work with them? Was it just a way for Thomas Harris to curb the Bruce Dern's terrorist act as like, well, if he was just this American guy trying to get back at America for doing what they did to him, I feel like it would have felt a bit more justified than attaching himself to this Middle Eastern terrorist organization that just wants to kill Americans just to, bring the reality of their experience over here. I don't know. I guess there's something about that just seems more like it.
I can explain that. Like I have two sort of things I can from Thomas Harris's perspective. I think I can make two attempts to explain.
Do you understand like what I'm trying to get
100%,
at?
of course,
okay.
yeah. And I'll tell you what I think. I think that number one, it's about creating an authentic, like just making it more, I guess, realistic. Number one, it's like the PLO is in the news at the time, so it's kind of like it's contemporizing it, and it's kind of like this could actually really happen. Like there are these foreign threats to America, and they've been doing crazy shit in Europe. What if it came to America? So like, and then sort of this sort of random factor of this disgruntled Vietnam vet could be the missing piece to bring violent large scale terrorism to U.S. soil. So there's that, and then there's also the question of like he needs to join some sort of organization to back the project. He needs to import something like 200 kilograms of plastic explosives through like an importer in Hong Kong. Like he needs some sort of organized organization to help him to put this all together. To get the raw materials. So I mean, so it's basically creating a legitimacy to the story twofold. One by sort of creating a feasible way for him to accomplish the goal, and second of all, to actually present a real world threat at the time that would potentially do this. So that's what I think is the answer. You reminded me of a film called The Park Is Mine, starring Tommy Lee Jones. in which
I vaguely remember that one.
yeah, it's not the best. The idea of the film is so much better. It's actually a lot like Death Wish in that it's about the bigger issue. It's not so much about like what's going on. It's about kind of like this guy doing this and how does the media react to it. You know,
Right.
like, so and it kind of, it's like once you realize that, you're like, oh, I thought this was going to be like First Blood or something, but it's not. It's more it's got a bigger idea. The best thing about the film, in my opinion, is the fact that it's got a Tangerine Dream soundtrack, which is they did the fucking soundtrack for The Keep and
Risky Business.
Risky Business, of course, yeah. So there's a really awesome soundtrack to that movie, and it's almost worth listening to just for that. Tangerine Dream also did the soundtrack for a film called Barracuda, which is a god awful Jaws ripoff about barracudas, and it sucks. But the soundtrack in that one is actually one of my favorite Tangerine Dream soundtracks.
Did they do the soundtrack to Legend?
Yeah, they did. But that was the first version. Then I think they got Jerry Goldsmith to do kind of like a standard edition soundtrack, a more traditional sort of soundtrack. I think it was either Jerry Goldsmith or James Horner. I think probably Jerry Goldsmith though. But the point is that the original Tangerine Dream soundtrack for Legend was thought of as weird and didn't fit the visuals, so they got like a more traditional fucking strings and horns soundtrack. But The Park Is Mine is like kind of like Black Sunday in this, but the one you're talking about, where there's no foreign agency. It's just a disgruntled Vietnam vet trying to make a point about
Right.
soldiers and Americans being taken advantage of and exploited in these wars that only benefit the ruling class, blah blah blah, all this kind of stuff. It's not. I think it's worth watching just because. I don't know. There's not a lot of stuff out there. So if you haven't seen The Park Is Mine, you might as well watch The Park Is Mine. It's not a full on recommend from me. It's a movie that I find loses a lot of steam about 45 minutes into it, and they introduce this like sort of love interest at one point that's just confusing. She's like a report. I got to go in and get the scoop, So she goes in with a camera, and then he ends up taking her hostage, and then you see her tits one time. So you get that. But anyways,
got the scoop all right.
She got the scoop. That's the that's
She got
the
her
fucking
pussy scooped.
What the fuck? That's the that's Black Sunday handled clumsier without a foreign agency kind of involved. The protagonist is
And I also
is
just
Bruce
thought
Dern.
that. Thought that the
Hold on a second. Let me just get this out. In The Park Is Mine, if it were to be compared to Black Sunday, Bruce Dern is the hero. So Tommy Lee Jones is Bruce Dern in The Park Is Mine, and he's the hero of the film. There's no
Right.
question. There is a guy chasing him. There is like a New York cop chasing him, but he's kind of like the kind of like the nemesis. Like in the Outlaw Josie Wales, you have Clint Eastwood, and then you have that guy, the dean from Animal House,
John Vernon.
John Vernon. Yeah. So you like them both, but they are at odds. Like they're like nemesises. Sorry, man, I cut you off. Go ahead.
And yeah, my other big issue with the film was that the final scene with the blimp crashing into the stadium was just really, like I said, it looked like when Woody Allen was being chased by the giant tit in Everything You Always Wanted to Know. It just kind of seemed ridiculous, and there's like cartoon kind of like Batman TV show blasts on the screen, and it just seemed very like, for all the buildup and all the like, clearly they had some big budget here. They're traveling all over the world and filming all this shit. It's like they couldn't. They should have at least saved a couple of bucks to make that scene scarier.
Yeah. No, they spent
Like
all the
maybe-
money on the little Virgin Mary statues.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, whatever. You get that sort of derelict plane hangar scene, and then it doesn't really get any better at that point. You got Robert Shaw hanging off of a rope against, I guess, like a rear projection screen or something. It's all pretty embarrassing to watch, but look, everybody. If you want to have the Black Sunday experience, read the book. It's better. But at the same time, the performances from Bruce Dern and Martha
Bruce
Keller
Dern's good.
are good.
What's her name? Martha Keller?
Not Martha, but Marth.
Marth Keller.
Yeah.
Good. Keats guy was good, even though he's not in it very much. The Asian captain gets his head blown off. The guy from Godfather 2's in it. He's good. He sucks a gun barrel. There's definitely good stuff in it. I mean, I'd have to give it like at least 2.5 eggplants.
Yeah.
I was fairly entertained throughout the movie.
Yeah. I'm giving it 3 because I do think that it's very, very original for the time and very ballsy for the time. So that makes it an extra half point for me. But yeah, the sort of the shoddiness of the production definitely really show towards the end, and it's almost disappointing. Not quite, but it almost ruins it for me. But anyways, yeah, to recap, I think we're done with this episode. I thought we could get 2 episodes out of this, but this is probably just going to be 1. And it's so it's Anora, so that's a 4 from both of us. And then what was the other one we talked about?
Black Sunday.
Is that all we talked about? Just 2 movies?
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't talk about another one?
We talked a little bit about Red Rocket, but it was just in conjunction with Anora.
Oh, that's right. What would you give Red Rocket?
Give it a 5.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. Like, I'd say that's a 5 eggplant movie.
Yeah. Yeah, me too, actually. Like, I try to think of, like, just, a way to bring it down to a 4.5, but I can't really even think about how, because unlike Anora, it has everything that Anora has in terms of, like, depth of character and kind of, like, just you're completely fixated on what's going on. But there are no pacing issues. Like, it moves and you're interested, and there's no lulls or flabby parts.
And there's no Simon Rex, who's just so incredibly compelling in that movie.
Yeah, who would have thought? That's a real strength of Sean Baker, especially as he gets to have more say in. Let me put it this way: as he gets to command bigger budgets, and he has sort of this reputation of being just like the guy who always makes these awesome films, and like everyone wants to work with him. As time goes on, I'm sure that we're going to start seeing like just him, having literally everybody in Hollywood, in LA, want to work with him, want to be in his next movie. But he'll always surprise you. He's the guy who will, bring Simon Rex like back, like
back from Oblivion.
Back from Oblivion, from the MTV VJ Oblivion.
Right.
I mean, what's her name? Mikey Madsen or whatever. Mickey, whatever her name is. Like, I mean, she already. Well, I don't know. I mean, it was. One thing I wanted to talk about too, and we should probably talk about this, is that what do you think of this sort of this interesting trend of like actresses kind of like achieving kind of like prestige status after doing like very like very graphic like sex scenes, and it's almost like a I don't want to say it's a recent phenomenon, because it was true like back like decades ago, but it's almost like a resurgence. Like, you got Emma Stone in Poor Things, you got fucking Mickey Madsen in motherfucking Anora. There was another one I was thinking of too. Yeah, you got Sydney Sweeney is one of the biggest female stars right now, and she's basically known for showing her big naturals in Euphoria.
She kind of has like pretty heavy sex scenes in that show too.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, she's on all fours, and those things are fucking swinging. But and there's even another one too that I'm trying to think of. Maybe I'm fucked up. I thought I had 4 in the barrel, but what makes it different? What makes it different is not that like they aren't being kind of like treated in sort of press junkets and with the press as sort of just like, these women are, it's Carmen Electra showing her tits again. It's like they're being treated as like these like high level prestige
also the
performers.
The Substance.
Yeah.
That girl in The Substance.
Exactly. Thanks. And that's why I wanted to say it, because in fact, Sydney Sweeney, Margaret Qualley. And then also, and the other one, fucking Mickey Madsen or whatever her name is. They were all in Mickey Mouse. They were all in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood on the Charles Manson ranch.
Were they?
Yeah. So they all kind of got plucked off that ranch, that fictional ranch, and now they're all kind of like doing these like these films that are, the point that I'm trying to make is that these are all like, Academy Award sort of considered films, and they're not being thought of as just kind of, well, maybe they are being thought of as just like girls who will get naked and hot bitches that we can kind of, leer at, but the facade is that, these are
well, I mean,
the next wave of young performers.
These are the thing is like these are good films though. Like it's sort of like if this was, Screwballs 4 and some Andy Sedaris, Picasso Trigger 3. Not that there's anything wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with those films, but it's like the fact that like these are quality films that happen to have sex scenes in them, or that part of the subject is sex, sexuality, objectification, whatever. So it's like I feel like because we're seeing a wave coming in of good filmmakers, incorporating sexuality into their films, and these actresses are willing to do that and see the value in doing it. I think it's good.
I think it's good too, but I do think it's. I do think that there's sort of like a typical kind of like Hollywood sort of dishonesty to it. Like, it's like, there's not objectification happening here. This is.
Well, don't say that. Like, let's pretend that we all love it because that all we need is like somebody like you to come in and be like, well, I don't think this is just shut up.
Yeah. Quit being such a huge fag about it and just fucking let these bitches take off their tops and show their pussies and stuff. Yeah. I mean,
even if it has to be in some Academy Award winning film and people are like, oh, it's so brave and all that shit, whatever you want to say, let's pretend it's brave and it's great because it is great, and leave it alone. Don't criticize it.
It's great. You know what it's kind of like? It's kind of like when if you're trying to convince like an actress to do like a nude scene in your movie, then you can kind of be like, well, check this out. Like you kind of like all the real actresses are doing this, So do you want to be like that, or do you want to keep putzing around and like fucking Ellen Page? We all saw what happened to her,
Yeah. You want to be Ellen Page?
You want to be Elliot Page? You don't. If you don't fucking use those tits on screen, you got to get them cut off.
Yeah, that's the law.
That's the law. That's the way it is. This is a joke, everybody. Don't get angry at this. We're not editing this out. I trust my audience in understanding that this is a joke.
This is almost a joke.
You're right. Well, it's 100% a joke from me. It's about like 15% a joke from Johnny. We'll end the episode now. Thanks everyone for listening. Go out and see Anora while you still can. I think that's something that everyone should see. And if you haven't seen Red Rocket, check it out also, because that's like a Grand Slam movie, and then everything else, whatever, Black Sunday. Who gives a shit? You can watch that maybe if it's on TV. Did you ever see Black Sunday on TV, like just being shown on like TBS or something?
This was the first time I've ever seen it, ever. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean it's definitely worth watching if you're into that kind of thing. It's also kind of an interesting relic of the past because it's the kind of movie that in a sense it's a little like Rambo 3, where it's like, oh, there was a time when there could be an American movie made about like the partnership between an American soldier and Afghanis in Afghanistan, basically Al Qaeda in Afghanistan. So it's kind of like the movie where Rambo and Al Qaeda team up to battle the Russians. It's like those. Did that really happen? Like especially to like to younger sort of film fans. It's sort of funny to see kind of.
It's history. An education.
It's an education. Sometimes you got to eat your vegetables. You got to fucking watch the movies to understand, the world, the way the world once was. Exactly. Okay. So yeah, I'm signing off. See you later, everyone. Bye.
Bye.